In the heart of ancient Egypt, where the gods walked among mortals and justice was weighed in gold, one man held the fate of the entire kingdom in his hands. His name was Amun-Ra-Senab, and he was the keeper of the royal scales. This wasn't just any set of scales, it was the sacred balance, believed to be blessed by Mat herself, the goddess of truth, order, and justice. Every grain of wheat, every ounce of gold, every legal judgment in the land was measured by its perfect equilibrium. For Amun-Ra, his duty was more than a job, it was a sacred trust. Maintaining the balance of the scales meant maintaining the balance of the cosmos. But one morning, as the first rays of the sun gilded the temples of Thebes, Amun-Ra's world was shattered. He entered the hallowed chamber to perform his daily rituals, and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. His eyes, trained by years of meticulous observation, noticed something unthinkable. The sacred scales were off. The shift was minuscule, almost invisible to an ordinary person, but to him, it was a cataclysm. Someone had dared to tamper with the divine instrument of Mat. This was no simple act of vandalism. This was an attack on the very soul of Egypt. A tiny, deliberate alteration meant that every transaction, every tax collection, every court verdict was now skewed. The rich could get richer, the poor would be cheated out of their livelihoods, and the justice system would become a tool for corruption. The whispers of injustice would soon turn into roars of rebellion. The delicate fabric of society, held together by faith in the pharaoh's divine justice, was beginning to unravel. A cold dread washed over Amun-Ra. He was the only person alive who knew the true, secret calibration of the sacred scales, a secret passed down through generations of keepers. If he reported the tampering, panic would erupt. The pharaoh himself might believe that the goddess Mat had abandoned the kingdom, a sign of impending doom that could incite rivals to challenge the throne. No, he couldn't risk exposing the weakness. He had to fix this, and he had to do it alone. The hunt for the traitor began. Amun-Ra started his investigation in the shadows, his every move cloaked in secrecy. He was no longer just a keeper of weights and measures. He was a detective navigating a labyrinth of power and deceit. His search took him from the dusty, cobwebbed silence of the royal archives to the bustling, chaotic energy of the grand markets. He reviewed trade ledgers, cross-referenced shipping manifests, and spoke with merchants, farmers, and scribes, listening for inconsistencies, for any sign of someone profiting from the skewed measurements. He soon noticed a pattern. A small, select group of merchants, all connected to one powerful figure, were suddenly amassing incredible wealth. Their grain shipments weighed more, their gold payments less. All lines of inquiry, all whispers of corruption, led back to one man, the Vizier Kai. Kai was the pharaoh's most trusted advisor, a man of immense influence and ambition, with a smile that could charm a cobra and eyes that held the coldness of the tomb. Amun-Ra realized the terrifying truth. This wasn't just about greed. This was a coup in the making. By manipulating the economy, Vizier Kai was engineering a crisis. He was creating widespread discontent, making the people lose faith in the pharaoh's ability to maintain order. Once the kingdom was on the brink of chaos, Kai planned to step in as the savior, seizing power and becoming a shadow ruler, with the pharaoh as his mere puppet. The plot was brilliant, insidious, and already in motion. Amun-Ra was standing on the edge of a precipice, with the entire kingdom about to fall into the abyss. As he got closer to the truth, the world around him grew darker and more dangerous. The walls seemed to have ears. He felt the constant weight of unseen eyes watching his every move. Allies he had trusted for years suddenly vanished without a trace. A pile of storage crates accidentally toppled over, nearly crushing him in a narrow corridor. A shipment of papyrus he was inspecting mysteriously caught fire. These were not accidents, they were warnings. The vizier knew he was being investigated. The pressure was immense. The royal guard, likely on Kai's orders, began to question him, their inquiries laced with suspicion. They shadowed his movements, treating him not as the revered keeper, but as a potential criminal. Time was running out. Every day the corrupted scales remained in use. Kai's power grew, and the kingdom spiraled further into disorder. Amun-Ra knew he couldn't fight Kai in the shadows forever. He had to bring the darkness into the light. He needed a stage, a moment where the truth could not be denied. He devised a plan, a desperate gamble that would either save Egypt or cost him his life. He requested an audience with the pharaoh in the great hall of judgment, announcing he had a demonstration of Matzah's divine principle to share. It was a bold move, and the Vizier Kai, ever confident, stood beside the pharaoh, a smug look on his face, suspecting nothing of Amun-Ra's true intentions. The entire royal court assembled nobles, priests, and generals, all gathered to witness the keeper's presentation. The chamber fell silent as Amun-Ra brought forth the sacred scales. He placed a standard gold weight on one side and an equal amount of grain on the other, the very symbols of wealth and sustenance. As everyone expected, the scales tipped, showing the grain to be worth less than the gold. Murmurs rippled through the court. This was the imbalance that was causing so much hardship. Kai watched, amused, believing this was a simple display of the kingdom's economic troubles. Then, Amun-Ra spoke, his voice clear and steady, ringing with authority. He explained the sacred principle of the scales, how their perfect balance reflected divine truth. And then, he made his move. Before the eyes of the pharaoh and the entire court, he reached beneath the balance beam and revealed a tiny, almost invisible wedge of lead, cleverly painted to blend in with the ornate gold hair. Removed it. A collective gasp echoed through the hall. With the hidden weight gone, he performed the measurement again. This time, the scales balanced perfectly. Truth was restored. The implication was immediate and earth-shattering. The scales hadn't failed. They had been betrayed. Amun-Ra turned and looked directly at Vizier Kai, whose face had turned pale with shock and fury. He presented the evidence he had gathered, the forged ledgers, the testimony from frightened merchants, the clear trail of illicit wealth leading directly to the vizier. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place for everyone to see. Kai's plot to destabilize the kingdom and seize power was laid bare. The pharaoh rose from his throne, his face a mask of cold rage. The betrayal by his most trusted advisor was absolute. "Guards, seize him," he commanded. Vizier Kai was stripped of his titles and dragged away, his schemes turned to dust. Order was restored, not by force, but by the revelation of truth. Amun-Ra Senabi, the quiet keeper, had saved the kingdom not with a sword, but with a gram of gold and an unshakable belief in justice. He returned the sacred scales to their rightful state, their balance perfect once more. In that moment he reaffirmed a timeless principle, that while corruption may scheme in the shadows, the truth, when brought to light, shines brighter and more powerfully than any conspiracy. The balance of Mat and of Egypt was secure once more. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to ancient Egypt. If you love stories of history, mystery, and forgotten heroes, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more adventures. See you next time. In the heart of ancient Egypt, where the gods walked among mortals and magic was woven into the very fabric of life, one man held the kingdom's soul in his hands. His name was Amun-Ra Senab, and his title was the Keeper of the Royal Scales. This wasn't just any job. The scales he guarded were no ordinary instrument. They were believed to be a divine gift from Mat herself, the goddess of truth, justice, and cosmic order. Every grain of gold paid in tribute, every sack of wheat traded in the bustling markets, and every judgment that decided a person's fate had to be weighed on this sacred balance. For Amun-Ra, maintaining its perfect equilibrium was more than a duty, it was a spiritual calling. To keep the scales true was to keep Egypt aligned with the will of the gods. But one fateful morning, as the first rays of the sun painted the sky over the Nile, Amun-Ra entered the hallowed chamber and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. He approached the gleaming golden scales, his heart pounding in his chest. To an ordinary eye, they looked perfect, untouched. But Amun-Ra's connection to them was deeper than sight. He ran his fingers along the delicate beam, his breath catching in his throat. It was almost imperceptible. A tiny, sinister adjustment, a whisper of corruption. The sacred scales had been tampered with. This wasn't just a minor crime. This was an act of blasphemy that threatened to unravel the entire kingdom. With this subtle alteration, every single transaction in Egypt was now a lie. The scales would tip ever so slightly in favor of the dishonest. Wealthy merchants would get richer, while poor farmers, who depended on fair trade for their survival, would be cheated out of their hard-earned grain. The very concept of justice was now poisoned at its source. Whispers of unfairness were already spreading like a plague through the capital city of Thebes. People were beginning to doubt the system, to doubt the pharaoh, and to doubt the gods themselves. And in all of Egypt, only one man knew the truth. Amun-Ra. He was the sole guardian of the secret calibration, a knowledge passed down through generations of keepers. If he reported the tampering, the consequences could be catastrophic. The pharaoh, a devout man who believed his right to rule came directly from Maat, might see this corruption as a sign that the goddess had abandoned him. His authority would crumble, rivals would rise, and the kingdom would plunge into a maelstrom of political chaos and spiritual panic. The delicate balance that held Egypt together would be shattered. Amun-Ra knew he couldn't let that happen. He had to fix this, and he had to do it alone. In secret, his investigation began under the cloak of shadows. Amun-Ra moved like a ghost through the sprawling palace complex, his every sense on high alert. He started in the vast, dusty storage chambers, sifting through records of grain distribution, searching for anomalies that matched the corrupted weights. He visited the opulent trading houses along the river, observing the powerful merchants whose fortunes were suddenly, inexplicably, soaring. He spent long nights in the hallowed temple archives, poring over ancient texts, looking for any precedent, any clue about who might possess the knowledge to tamper with such a sacred object. Slowly, a dark pattern began to emerge. The threads of deceit all seemed to lead back to one man, the Vizier Kai. Kai was the pharaoh's most trusted advisor, a man of immense power and ambition, with a smile as smooth as polished obsidian. Amun-Ra discovered that Kai had been secretly meeting with disgruntled nobles and military commanders. By manipulating the economy, Kai was creating unrest and turning the people against the pharaoh. His plan was insidious and brilliant. He would destabilize the kingdom from within, not with swords, but with corrupted scales. He aimed to become a shadow ruler, the true power behind a weakened throne, all while appearing to be the pharaoh's loyal servant. As Amun-Ra got closer to the truth, the world around him became a labyrinth of danger. He started to feel the chilling sensation of being watched. A loyal scribe who had been helping him vanished without a trace. A heavy stone block accidentally fell from a construction site, missing him by inches. Palace guards, men he had known for years, began stopping him, their eyes filled with a new suspicion as they questioned his movements. Kai knew he was being investigated. The hunter had become the hunted. Time was running out. The annual festival of Maat was just days away, a grand ceremony where the pharaoh would publicly reaffirm his commitment to justice. If the scales were still corrupted by then, Kai's victory would be complete, and Egypt's soul would be lost forever. Amun-Ra knew he had only one chance, a desperate gamble that would either save the kingdom or cost him his life. He had to expose Kai in the most public way imaginable, in a place where the truth could not be denied. The stage for this final confrontation would be the Great Hall of Judgment, the very heart of Egyptian justice. During the festival itself, before the pharaoh, the royal court, and the high priests of every temple, Amun-Ra would make his stand. As the ceremony reached its peak, Amun-Ra stepped forward, his voice ringing with authority. He accused Vizier Kai of high treason and sacrilege. A shocked silence fell over the hall. Kai laughed, dismissing him as a madman. But Amun-Ra was prepared. He brought forth the sacred scales, and, with steady hands, began his demonstration. He took a standard set of gold weights, known to all, and placed them on the balance. As expected, the scales tipped, showing a false reading, the very imbalance that was cheating the kingdom. The court gasped. Then, Amun-Ra performed a secret ritual of recalibration. He whispered the ancient words and made the precise, hidden adjustments that only he knew. He placed the same gold weights back on the scales. This time, they settled into perfect, divine equilibrium. The truth was laid bare for all to see. The tampering was real. In that moment, Kai's mask of loyalty shattered. His face, twisted in fury and disbelief, was all the confession the pharaoh needed. The guards seized the treacherous vizier, and the plot that had threatened to consume Egypt was brought into the light. Order was restored. Amun-Ra Senab, the humble keeper, had single-handedly saved the kingdom, not with a sword, but with truth. He returned the sacred scales to their hallowed chamber, their balance once again perfect, their purpose renewed. His actions became a legend, a timeless reminder whispered down through the ages, that no matter how deep the shadows of corruption may grow, the light of justice, when bravely protected, will always shine brighter. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back to ancient Egypt, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more stories from history, and ring that notification bell. We'll see you in the next one.